Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. We're very excited this week to have one of the candidates for governor on the Republican side, someone that all of our viewers probably know, former Speaker, former U.S. Attorney Catherine Hanaway. Madam Speaker, do we call you still? Or?
Please call me Catherine, Scott.
All right, Catherine, welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics.
I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on again.
Impressive biography. Walk us through why that matters to being governor.
Well, the most important responsibility I'll ever have is being a mom. We have two kids, 17 and 13. I grew up in small town Nebraska and Iowa. I'm a Missourian by choice. I'm not one of these seventh generation Missourians. I moved here for a job. And it matters because I'm running for governor to create jobs and to attract young people here. And from a long time ago, I know a little bit about that. I was attracted to this state by opportunity. But I think this is going to be a law and order election. After we see escalating murder rates in St. Louis and Kansas City, what's happened in Ferguson, what's happening on the MU campus right now. We need a governor who knows how to lead on law and order issues. I was a federal prosecutor. I prosecuted over 4,000 cases. I've worked with law enforcement. I understand what sacrifices they make to protect us. And I understand, like any other large profession, occasionally you have a bad apple. I prosecuted a couple of those too. But for our governor to sort of prejudge facts against law enforcement, that's absolutely wrong. You need a governor who knows how to lead on those issues. And then, frankly, even though I'm not a career politician, I only spent 6 years in elected office, I do think it's important to know something about how state government works.
So you just did the bus tour. You seem to get a lot of good publicity. So you made the entire state, which for you would not be the first time. You were the person that brought the majority in the House. I always think it's interesting for a politician. They know the road dead ends in Kennet at the McDonald's. They know that when you get to Carthage, you're not quite to Joplin yet. It looked to me like a lot of the folks you helped elect back when the majority was taken were some of the folks I saw in the photographs on the bus tour. Was it nice, and have you built the organization? And kind of give us the rundown of the bus tour and what it did.
Oh, it's been fabulous because we have been able to actually get out and talk to people. And you're right, I've reconnected with a lot of people who were in the Missouri legislature at the time, and a couple of them have said, hey, where are you going? Pat Seacrest from here was yesterday down in Ozark County, in Christian County with me in Ozark, Missouri. I mean, she's kind of following the bus around.
That's a good drive.
It is a very good drive, and Jerry Boo, who only served one term, showed up. But more importantly, the people in those communities are coming out and they're talking to me about what their problems are. And I think the most important thing I'm doing on this bus tour is listening to what their issues are.
Well, what have you heard? What is something that you've had some events on gun rights and pro-life events? What are some folks that came out that didn't come out to talk about your issues? What's the top thing you heard other people bring up to you?
In rural Missouri, no question, it's transportation. They're worried about their crumbling roads and bridges. Now, that's interesting because, you know, like everybody else, we've done some polling. It doesn't show up big in the urban areas, but in rural Missouri, crumbling roads and bridges probably is the #1 issue.
So you had an event at the first part of the tour talking about some pro-life stances you had. Give me that cliff notes of that.
Well, I have always been pro-life. I am proud of the fact that Missouri continues to be a very pro-life state. So when I was Speaker, we banned public funding of abortions. We put in place the first 24-hour waiting period. I think we should keep going in the wake of the Planned Parenthood videos. I think we should make it a felony in Missouri to traffic in human baby organs. I think that we should defund Planned Parenthood completely. And to those who say, oh, what about women's health care? Let's send the money to the federally qualified health centers. There are more of them. We'd provide more access to women's health care. And then we need to pass what's called a pain-capable abortion ban. Now, in Missouri, abortions are illegal after 20 weeks if the baby is deemed to be viable by the doctor. I want to take that discretionary element out of it. Medical science shows us a baby sucks its thumb, yawns, feels pain at 20 weeks. At that point, abortion should be illegal across the board in Missouri.
So you brought up a topic this past week called constitutional carry. Give the folks that don't know what that is, what exactly does that mean?
Plain and simply, it means if you're a law-abiding citizen, you can carry a gun in this state, period, concealed or otherwise without a permit.
You've been a prosecutor. Is that really a good idea?
Absolutely, because the only people who are going out and getting concealed carry permits are law-abiding citizens. We don't need to further restrict law-abiding citizens. The other part of the plan that I announced is much stricter penalties for the people who are committing crimes with guns. So tougher penalties if you are involved in an armed criminal action. That means you use a gun to commit a crime. I want to up the first instance to 5-year minimum, second instance to 10-year minimum. Or if you already have a felony conviction, a violent felony conviction, and you choose to arm yourself, and you get arrested with a gun, just having that gun should be a 5-year minimum sentence in our state prisons.
So part of the bus tour was the campaign. You participated in some forums. We're very glad you made This Week in Missouri Politics part of the bus tour. Your opponents, you've got to see them at some of these forums now. You've ran campaigns all over the state for the House. You've participated in President Bush's campaign. Give me your thoughts on your opponents. Start with Peter Kinder.
Well, here's what I know. We have 4 other people running for governor, all of whom would be a better governor than Chris Koster. And what I think is so beneficial about the forums, and I hope we have lots of them. In fact, I've challenged the other candidates to an additional 9 forums, 1 in every TV market in the state, so that our conservative message can get in front of voters and they can make decisions about who the best Republican nominee is to take on Chris Koster. It's not for me to decide. I know who I'm voting for already.
So what do you think? What do you thought of this far of Lieutenant Governor Kinder's campaign?
Well, he's an experienced campaigner, and that distinguishes him from some of the others. He's run more statewide races. What I'm trying to bring to this election is the right mix of having some experience in government, but also a lot of real-world experience, both as a parent and as somebody who's built a law practice and gone out and hustled for business. I think that's a great combination.
You've known Bob Dixon for a while.
I have.
From the legislative days when he was first talking about running. What have you seen from the campaign trail on Senator Dixon?
What I saw from him in the legislature, he's a hardworking, honest guy, means well. It just, as I said, what I'm focused on is not my opponents. I'm focused on how we make Missouri better.
What about the two folks that brand themselves outsiders, Eric Greitens and John Brunner?
Again, both of them would be much better governors than Chris Koster. I think I'm better prepared to take on Chris Koster, and what we need in Missouri is a conservative governor in that governor's mansion who will get things done.
Speaking of beating Chris Koster, how's your campaign going? How's the fundraising? Obviously the bus tour was a lot of media attention. How is the fundraising going, and how is your organization on the ground right now?
I couldn't be happier with where we are right now. We've raised $2 million. We have coordinators in every Missouri county and have had for over a year. We have a very strong agricultural coalition. We had Governor Brownback from Kansas come in and do a fundraiser in the Kansas City area for us. This week we had Governor Nikki Haley from South Carolina and St. Louis doing a fundraiser for us. And it was great to hear her because she ran in a 5-way primary. She also, her only prior elected experience was in their House of Representatives, and she has 2 kids, 17 and 13. There was a lot of good omens there for me.
Will we see more of that? Will she be involved in the campaign as it goes on? Will we see more of those folks come in for you?
Absolutely, and in fact, she said at that event, I'm in this, I'm committed to this race, I'm gonna come back. It's important that we elect Republicans who really will stand up for conservative principles, and she believes that I'm one of those people.
Well, I'm used to calling you Madam Speaker, but I'll call you Catherine. We hope you come back and join us on This Week in Missouri Politics as the campaign goes on.
Scott, thank you so much, and congratulations on the success of this program. It's terrific.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming back again to be with us.
Thanks, Scott.
We'll be right back with our Opinion Maker panel, but we'll leave you with this week's leading economic indicators.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations. and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Welcome back to This Week in Missouri Politics. We're joined by our opinion maker panel now with Pat White, the head of the St. Louis Labor Council, rejoining us. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
First time. We're very excited to have former Senator Chuck Graham. Sir, thank you very much for coming over.
Good to be here.
John Hancock, chairman of the state Republican Party and a longtime political operative.
Yeah, that means I'm old. Thanks, Scott.
Good Ronald Reagan impersonation, though.
Thank you very much.
And Representative Shamed Dogan back with us this week. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
And Representative, we'll start with you. Turmoil at the state flagship college. Tim Wolf, the president, resigned, left office. They brought in Mike Middleton, a guy that's been around the campus, experienced. Give me your take on maybe more where we're going now.
Yeah, I think it's been really unfortunate to be in the national news again in this negative light. I am hopeful about the future, though, with Chancellor Middleton's ascension. I've known him for over 20 years. He taught my mother at the law school, and I was very impressed by him then. Respect the heck out of him, even though I don't agree with him on everything. I think he's respected across the political spectrum and across the state, and I'm really hopeful that he'll be able to bring in some of the needed changes to make that a better learning environment and to make Missouri be put forth in a positive light again.
Senator Graham, you've represented Columbia, you've represented the college, been a big advocate of theirs. What changes need to be made? What does now President Middleton need to do to actually improve and avoid some of the issues that have been brought up over the past couple of weeks?
Well, I think he has to open a dialogue that involves everybody. I think one of the things that happened was Chancellor Lofton had lost confidence on the campus. That's really not gotten much attention in the news. But we had the 9 sitting deans vote no confidence in him. We had several faculty groups vote no confidence in him. And there was a lot of turmoil on the campus. And the fact that President Wolf didn't hold him accountable, it ended up bouncing up to him. I mean, to a certain amount, he was really collateral damage in this. Most of the problems were just a lack of leadership on the campus. And so there's a lot of issues outside of just the ones that are making national news that need to be dealt with. And, you know, I've known Mike for 25 years. He and his wife, Julie, are going to bring a lot of professionalism, a lot of experience. But, you know, Mike's had his own experiences on that campus. And I can tell you, he's been passed over several times for several positions. And he's going to bring that perspective to things. And when he said we're going to put all the facts on the table, it'll be interesting because he's not afraid. He was in retirement. He was happy to stay home, and he's not interested in this permanently. And I think he's the right person to do the job.
Pat, what do you see now that it seems a feeling where we go through these things where the top person gets fired? To me, there was some talk about the deans, but isn't this really about the students and their experience, and is Mizzou in a good spot to move forward?
Scott, I think, you know, in my opinion, the African-American community is very frustrated, and we're dealing with it in the labor movement too, you know, with the inclusion part. And it's a shame that it has to come to this, you know, this kind of action to, you know, for these things to happen. But I think that the most important thing is communication. And I don't know Mr. Middleton personally, but, you know, from talking to these two gentlemen, you know, it sounds like he's someone that'll listen. I just think that there needs to be dialogue, and it's all over the state, it's all over the country, as a matter of fact, and we're dealing with it, just in this area in the labor movement, with the inclusion part of it. And we're working hard at that. I think that the most important thing that anybody could do is listen to these folks, whether they're the students or whether it's the guy out on the street or the lady working in the Hardee's. I just think that, for the most part, there's just got to be more communication, because I don't think we've been listening.
John Hancock, communication is something you're renowned all over the state for. The moves Mizzou made, I mean, it strikes me, I never thought Tim Wolf was a racist person. The environment on the campus was such that some changes seemed like they needed to be made from the student body. Did Mizzou do the things they need to do this week to move forward in a positive direction?
Well, I guess time will tell. I mean, what you've got here, whether we want to admit it or not, are radical activists. And I don't think getting the scalp of the president of the university system is necessarily going to be the end of the radical activism. And Mike Middleton, I agree, is a good choice. I think he is respected, regarded across the spectrum, and I hope he does a good job, because it's time to get back to class. It's time to get the education system flowing there at the University of Missouri. We can't afford in this state to turn our flagship university into a national disgrace. And it is time to get that university and its reputation and its performance back to a national level that we had achieved.
Representative, do you believe the worst is over with and there'll be better days now?
I think so. And just to piggyback a little bit on what John was saying, I think one of the things these students have to learn, I mean, they're young, they don't know what they're doing. They need to learn to kind of declare victory, because you've seen the situation on college campuses where students get what they're asking for and then they just ask for more. And they've gotten, I think, more than half of the demands that they were asking for from President Wolf. And you're just like, at what point do they just say, okay, we're happy?
So Senator, last take, did the university do what they need to do to put themselves in a position to move forward and make some change and get out of the national news for poor reasons and get in it for good reasons?
I think they've stopped the bleeding, but I'm going to agree with some of your other panelists. There are more demands that are coming from that group. And some of the demands that they made, frankly, are just unrealistic.
Sure.
When you say that in 2 years that we should have 10% of the faculty be African American, there's only a handful of schools in this country that have that, and they're historically black universities. You can't just set a 10% goal. First of all, that's
why not 12? Why not 20?
Well, first of all, I mean, they don't want it as a goal. They want it as a mandate. You can't legally make that a mandate. That's discrimination. So that's just an unrealistic goal. And what are they going to do in 2 years? Go on another hunger strike if we don't get there? I mean, how are we going to attract African American faculty to the institution right now? Because we already had one football recruit who's African American who said, I'm not coming there because I don't want to go there. I mean, if we unfortunately gotten labeled as a racist university, which I don't believe that we are. I think these problems exist everywhere, and Gary Pinkel was right when he said that. You're going to have a very, very hard time attracting faculty right now.
Let's talk about one problem that may be unique to Mizzou, and that was Professor Melissa Click. I witnessed this.
Yeah.
After President Wolf resigned, the students were obviously happy. That's what they'd advocated for. There was some sort of human chain built on a public square, and this professor was caught on video, telling somebody to get out, they had to leave the public square, telling them to get some muscle. As far as I know, as of we're taping this show, she's still a communications major. That's not Bolton Lofton's fault.
No, well, she was out of line, as was the woman from Greek Life Studies. I don't know why they were out there organizing the student protests. I think it's fine for faculty and staff to go out and support a student protest, but I don't think they should be organizing the student protests in the way that they were doing. She's on administrative leave. She's resigned her courtesy appointment at the journalism school. As a journalism major from a different school, the University of Illinois, I think in addition to mandatory diversity training, we need to have mandatory training on the Constitution and the First Amendment, because there's a whole lot of people on that campus that don't understand what the First Amendment means.
John Hancock, did Melissa Click confirm what
Let me just applaud for Senator Graham over here.
Amen.
Well said.
Did Melissa Click confirm what every conservative thinks college professors are like?
Yes. And look, this was a deplorable display in the public to shut out legitimate journalists trying to record a historic event. And it was, what they did was wrong. It was blatantly wrong. And, you know, you contrast that to poor Wolf, you know, and he was maybe asleep at the switch, and maybe there were a host of other problems with Tim Wolf. I don't know. I'm not acquainted with the situation. But what these employees, taxpayer-funded employees did in shutting down the First Amendment is deplorable. And if they get out of this with their jobs, that's wrong.
I mean, Representative, she's a communications professor. I mean, were it not caught on video, we could debate it, but I mean, it's on video. I mean, I would say maybe, it looks to me like maybe Mizzou's going to get some time to deal with some things and put their house in order, but this professor, that's not the last we're going to hear of this, is it?
I wouldn't think so, because that's just, as John said, unacceptable behavior, especially for somebody who's supposed to be a champion of the First Amendment. And when you have people on the left and the right, the ACLU, I know, has taken a strong stance in saying that this was completely wrong. Everybody on the right believes pretty strongly in the Constitution. You cannot have a university professor denying students their constitutional rights in a public space.
Pat White, you've negotiated labor contracts. You understand what it's like to have an employee that maybe makes a pretty big mistake. Now, maybe not on camera for the world to see in this setting, but
It's happened.
I mean, can this person stay?
Well, you know, I think it goes back to, obviously she made a huge mistake, and it was almost embarrassing watching the video. And yeah, that's one of those situations, and I've been in them many a times, where you go in and you just say, listen, you know, you just have to say you're sorry. I mean, the proof is there. You know, I mean, it's obvious that what she did was wrong. And, you know, I mean, you know, we look at it all the time. We look at it, you know, last session with some of our politicians on both sides of the aisle. And, you know, when they make a mistake, you know, is it enough to say you're sorry to keep your job? You know, I don't know. But, you know, I know there are times when you just put out that flag and say, listen, our person really messed up here. And I think that happened here.
Well, it also cuts back to your point of at 10 o'clock you have this professor doing this, what I think even she said was inexcusable behavior.
Yeah.
Then 2 hours later, the deans come out that represent professors like her, including her, and it takes away from their legitimacy and how much you care about what they think. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely. And it seemed like, you know, watching the video, it would seem like a woman that was caught up in the moment. And, you know, like I said, I'm not
We've all made
justifying
mistakes,
it.
sure.
Yeah, and, you know, and I haven't read enough about it to see that. I think she did apologize and say that it was wrong,
Sure.
but, you know, how far do you take that? And like, you know, I think like the senator said, I mean, you know, they went against a basic right, and the gentleman that was trying to take the pictures was trying to tell him that too. It's just as much my right to stay in here as your right to protest. So, you know, yeah, there were some serious mistakes made, and, you know, it's one of them situations where you just go in and say, listen, you know, our person messed up, you know.
Senator, obviously people talk about some racial tolerance and racial diversity training. Maybe some ideological diversity wouldn't be the worst thing that hit the campus.
I think a lot of work needs to be done, not just in that area, but I mean, you know, there are a ton of accessibility challenges that have not been dealt with for years and years and years on that campus. And, you know, I go out and help people try to understand what they need to do to comply with the ADA. And we've got challenges on the campus in that area. So there's a lot of improvement that can be made. I think right now, I think enough heads have been called for, enough heads have rolled, enough people have been fired. You know, we all just need to take a breath for a second and let the new leadership that's coming in investigate things, talk to people, and get a plan to move forward. If we keep calling for more people to be fired and we keep just in this dumpster fire, which is what I've told people, they asked, what's going on there? I said, do you want the long version or the short version? And short version, dumpster fire. We've got to let Mike Middleton put that out
But
and get to
days
work.
ahead, right?
I think that we can come out of
does
this
seem that way.
stronger. And I think we'll come out of it as a better institution, but we've got to get down to the hard work of putting that together and moving forward.
John Hancock, we just had Catherine Hanaway on the
Yes.
show. Spirited five-way primary. Where's the race right now, and more importantly, what do the candidates need to do to be successful?
Well, I am so proud of our, you know, as the chairman of the party, I couldn't be more pleased with the quality of the candidates that we're offering the people of Missouri. Catherine Hanaway was right. There are 5 candidates in our field running for governor, any of whom can do an effective, great job of leading this state. And I'm very pleased. And we've got a lot of different experiences and backgrounds amongst these candidates, but yet we have a very solid, consistent message from all of them. There's not much difference on the issues between these 5 candidates. They all are coming from pretty much a same conservative worldview. I think that's good. It's consistent and it's helpful. And we're going to nominate one of those 5, and we're going to win this election, gentlemen, coming up next November.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Representative, you saw former Speaker Hanaway. What do you think?
I was impressed. I've been impressed by a lot of what I've heard from the gubernatorial candidates. I'm not endorsing anybody at this point, but I would be pleased with any of them taking up the mantle of conservatism and of the Missouri Republican Party against Chris Koster. I think we have a good message about how our legislature has passed pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-economic freedom legislation only to be vetoed by an intransigent governor. So it would be tremendously helpful for the people of Missouri to get a good conservative governor in there so some of these good bills that we're passing can get signed into law.
Senator Graham, her answers come with details. I mean, she knows state government.
Sure
she knows
does.
what to say.
Sure does.
That would match up well with Chris Koster. Is there a Republican in that field that you just as soon wouldn't see win the primary?
I think on our side, Greitens is the one that we fear more than the rest. Everybody seems, and it's a national phenomenon too, everybody's running so far to the right to be able to get the nomination, when some of these folks were much more moderate than they represent that they are now. And they're going to have to come back to the center a little bit to be able to win the general. The problem that they're going to have over there, and we had this with Bob Holt and Claire McCaskill, you get done in August with a divisive primary and you come out of that broke. And you've got to turn around, restock all that money, and repair all the hard feelings and all the damage. Because right now, it's kumbaya and they're all getting along. But I've also seen the work of some of the Republican consultants and how vicious they can be, and they're more vicious to each other than they are to the Democrats when they run against them.
The worst.
And they'll come out with some hard feelings. Mark my words on that.
Are you worried about Greitens because of his fundraising ability, or because he might appeal to some Democrats in the way Chris Koster appeals to some Republicans?
That's exactly it. And also, it seems like, at least at this point, the public's in the mood for outsiders. And outsiders are holding much stronger than any of us had thought that they would. We thought that the establishment Republicans would be, coming in line at this point, and they're just not. And so, that may hold with the public. I think they're sick of all of it, to be frank.
Pat White, who do you see coming out as the strongest candidate right now?
Out of that race, I think it comes down to probably, is it Brunner or Hanaway? I agree. I would worry about Greitens against Koster, but I don't think he's far enough right for the folks in Missouri. The people that'll vote in
Or
that.
has maybe not been far enough right long enough.
Right. Because obviously he's, there's a knocks on him that he was going to run as a Democratic senator, and I think, honestly, I was on the show once before, and one of the Republicans on there said that if it comes down to Koster and Greitens, he might vote for the only Republican in the race, and that's Koster. So that was kind of the joke.
Senator Graham, give me a prediction quick. Who wins? When's the primary?
Peter Kinder.
Quick prediction. Who wins?
The people of Missouri.
People of Missouri. Oh, they always
That's
win.
a dodge.
Hillary Clinton's polling at 38%. We're going to win the White House. Roy Blunt's going to beat Jason Kander. We're going to be well positioned to win that governor's race in November 16. Mark it down.
We are going to mark it down and hold you to that.
You got it.
Hopefully have you back on This Week in Missouri Politics as the session unfolds.
All right.
And we'll leave it right there, and we'll see you next week here on This Week in Missouri Politics.